I hope you are completed with your case study part.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in today's session, we are going to start with your microservices part. We are going to start with it. But before getting into this microservices part, we have to know what is monolithic architecture. Okay, what is monolithic architecture, and then we'll go for your microservice architecture actually. So what is this monolithic architecture means? Where the entire application is going to be composed of a single piece of software actually. For example, consider I'm going to develop an e-commerce application. The e-commerce application will be provided with your customer service, it will be provided with your payment service, it will be having, it will be provided with your product service, it will be having, and it will be provided with your card services. Totally, we have 4 services are available: customer service, payment service, product service, as well as your card service actually. So what happened in the case of your monolithic architecture now? We are going to combine all these 4 services into a single application. Okay, I'm going to combine all the 4 services into a single application. Might be if you take your yesterday's case study itself. So you have your UI part is there, that is your JSP part is there, the client part, and next you will be having your database part that is going to communicate with your database. Now what you have done, you created only one application you have created, that is your Spring Boot application, something you have created actually, and in that application you have combined everything into that particular application itself. So such type of an architecture is called what architecture?
Monolithic.
Monolithic architecture. So where your entire application is going to be composed of single piece of software. Okay, single piece of software. So I'm going to combine everything into a single application. I'm going to combine it. Okay, I'm going to put every services into a single application. I'm going to put it. So that is we call it a monolithic architecture actually. And what this monolithic architecture will be generating now? It will be always generating a tightly coupled application. So what is tightly coupled application now? If one service is missing, also you can't able to run your
other part of the application.
You can run your application itself. You can run your application itself. So that's the reason it is called a tightly coupled application actually. So till now we have always developed only the monolithic architecture, where we are putting all the services into a single application. We are putting actually. So that is we call it a monolithic architecture. And this monolithic architecture will always create a tightly coupled application. And what is tightly coupled application now? If one service is not there, you can't able to run the we can't able to run the entire
application.
Your entire application. So that is the monolithic architecture. So what is an advantage of monolithic architecture? The first advantage, it is very simple to develop actually. Okay, very simple to develop because everything you are going to combine into a single application only we are going to combine. So it is simple to develop actually. And the next reason, it is simple to deploy also. Simple to deploy because everything is going to be present into a single application only. It's going to be present. So it is very simple to deploy actually. So that is an advantage of using your monolithic architecture. And whenever we talk about the drawbacks, okay, whenever you talk about the drawbacks of using your under monolithic architecture, the first drawback, it is not suitable for large and complex application. Large and complex application. So if I'm going to develop any large and complex application, in that case you no need to and I'm sorry, in that case it is not sorry, in that case there is no need to go for your monolithic architecture because monolithic architecture is not suitable for the large application. Okay. Why it is not suitable? Because if it is a large or a complex application, what happens? There will be so many team members will be available. Okay, there will be so many team members will be available, and for each team members we will be giving different modules will be giving actually, and those team members have to understand the requirement clearly. Okay, those team members have to understand the requirement clearly. They have to understand. In case if they are not able to understand, now obviously the final product will not satisfy your expectation or your customer. Okay, it will not be satisfying the customer actually, so your client actually. Okay, that's the reason it is not suitable for your large and complex application. And next it is we are slow in development actually. Okay, slow in development actually. And why it is slow in development? Consider we have a complex application. So if we have a complex application means there will be large team members will be available. There will be large team members will be available actually, and we want to make all the team members to understand the requirement actually. Then only you can able to develop the complete application. Consider if the team member doesn't understand the requirement, then we have to wait for them until they understand the requirement or until their module is completed actually. So that is we call to be a slow in development. We have complex applications, so we have large team members will be there. So it is difficult to understand by all team members, and then develop your application. Okay, and then develop your application. So obviously it leads to a slower in development part actually. Okay, and the next drawback in the case of your under monolithic architecture is we call it blocks continuous development. Okay, it's going to block your continuous development. And what is the block your continuous development? As I already told before, we have taken an example called as e-commerce application. And what are the services available in e-commerce application? Customer service, then product service, then payment service and card service actually. So we have 4 services are available, and now all the 4 services is going to be present in a single application. It is going to be present. Now what is the blocks continuous development now? Consider I'm going to introduce a new product in my application. Okay, I'm going to introduce a new product in my application. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to update which service? I'm going to update it. Product service. Okay, you are going to update your product service actually. So whenever you're going to update your product services now, then what happens now? We have to redeploy the entire application because everything is going to be present in a single application. It is going to be present. Now consider I'm going to introduce a new product in my application. Now I'm going to update my product service. So if I'm going to update my product services now, then we have to redeploy the entire application. Okay, redeploy the entire application. So at the time of redeploying, the customer service which was executed successfully, okay, the customer service which was executed previously, which was executed successfully due to some deployment issues or due to some dependency problem, right now the customer service may not be deployed, or may not. The customer services may be failed actually. Okay, maybe failed actually. So once again, what we have to do, we have to rectify your customer service. So it is going to block your continuous deployment. Okay, it is going to block your continuous development or deployment. So what is it now? When we update one service, then we have to redeploy the entire application. Redeploy the entire application. So at time of redeploying, service which executed previously successfully, previous state may not be executed or may not be deployed properly due to some deployment issues or dependency issues. Maybe failed due to some dependency issues. It is not a rule actually. I'm just saying actually. Okay, I'm just saying because of some dependency issue, the service which was executed previously may not be successfully executed now. So what happened? We have to rectify that particular services. So we have to lock your continuous development. And the next drawback is monolithic architecture is going to be unscalable. We call it unscalable actually. And as I already told you, what is monolithic architecture? We are going to put all the services into a single architecture, a single application. We are going to put all the services into a single application actually. So for example, right now we have e-commerce application, and the e-commerce application we have customer service, product service, and the payment service as well as your card services. So consider my payment services. Consider my payment service needs more what you can able to say software specification. Okay, more or high software specification. For example, for my payment services, I need 16 GB RAM is needed, and the latest processor is needed actually, and like that it was and I need all higher end configuration is needed actually. But for customer services and all, the basic configuration is sufficient actually. But since we are putting all the services into a single application, can I give basic configuration to customer service and higher configuration to payment service?
Yes.
Hello. I told what is monolithic architecture now? We are going to put all the services into a
Single application.
So now my payment services requires higher configuration, whereas your customer services and all it's needed only basic configuration. So since we are putting everything into a single service, can I provide for customer service the basic configuration and for payment service can I provide higher configuration?
No.
No, that's not possible because it is we are providing everything into a single mission. We are providing everything actually. So can I and give partly for and basic configuration for customer service and higher configuration for payment service?
No.
It is not possible actually. So that's the reason it is we called to be unscalable. Okay, that's the reason it is we called to be unscalable. So what is unscalable now? Different services needs different requirements. So different services will be needing different requirements will be needing actually. So we can't able to give one configuration to one service and another configuration to another services. That is not possible to give it. So that's the reason it is called to be
Scalable.
And there is one more reason also you can able to say for your unscalable is that, and as I already told before, in the case of your monolithic architecture, we are going to put all the services into a single application that we are going to put it actually. So now if I talk about customer service will access only the information about what?
Customer.
And payment service will access only the information about the
Payment.
and product service will be accessing only the information about the product actually. And card service will be accessing only the information about the card. But since we are putting everything into a single application, my customer service can access the information about the customer as well as he can able to access the information about the
Payment.
product as well as your card actually. Because we are putting everything into a
Single application.
single application actually. So that is also one of the reasons why we say it is unscalable actually. All services will get access to all data. Which makes the caching operation to be less effective, and it requires more memory consumption. Okay, so why we want to be unscalable now? Because different services will be needing different requirements. It will be different configuration. It will be required actually. But since we are putting in a single application, we can't give one configuration to one service and another configuration to another service actually. And as I already told before, your payment service needs higher configuration. So what happens over here? The same higher configuration has to be given for which one also?
Customer service.
Customer service payment and a product service as well as your card service, which is not needed actually. So obviously the cost of your application is going to be more actually. And the second thing, and since we are putting everything into a single application, all the services will be getting access to all the data actually. So obviously your caching operation will be less effective and it is going to require more
Memory consumption.
memory consumption also will be more actually. Okay, that is also one of a drawback in the case of your monolithic architecture. The next drawback is we call it unreliable. Okay, the next drawback is we call it unreliable actually. And what is that unreliable now? If as I already told before, in the case of your e-commerce application, you have customer service, product service, card service as well as your payment service actually. So consider that there is problem in the payment service. Okay. So if one service goes down now, will other services will be working?
No.
No, it won't be working actually because we are putting everything into a
Single application.
Sorry. So unreliable now. If one service goes down, then the entire application will stop. Entire application will be stopped. Okay. Because if one service goes down now, we can't able to rectify only that particular service. Since we are putting everything into a single application, so the entire application will be
Stop.
Next thing is we call to be inflexible. Okay, next drawback is we call to be inflexible drawback actually. So what is an inflexible drawback now? So consider the same e-commerce application. Now I have developed the e-commerce application in my Java language I have developed actually. Suddenly the client is asking, no, right now we want to and convert the e-commerce application from Java to the .NET language I want to convert it actually. So in that case, what happened? Is it easy? No, it is not easy actually. We have to start the application entirely from the from scratch. I want to start it actually. So that is we call to be inflexible. That is difficult. And so certain feature that is supported in the case of your Java language may not be supported in the case of
.NET language.
In that case, we have to find a new solution. We want to find it actually. So what is inflexible now? Difficult to support new language or new framework. So that is we call to be inflexible. So these are the drawbacks in the case of your monolithic architecture. So what is that monolithic architecture means? We are going to put all the services into a
Single application.
Okay. We are going to put all the services into a single application. So that is we call to be a monolithic architecture. And these are the drawbacks in the case of your monolithic architecture. So clear about your monolithic architecture, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because of these drawbacks, okay, because of these so many drawbacks, right now we are going for an architecture called as
Microservices.
Microservices.
For an architecture called as your microservice architecture. And what is that microservice architecture now? The huge application is going to divide it into small components or services. Okay, so huge application is going to be divided into small components or services, and each services will be communicating with each other with the help of your REST API or with the help of your messaging console. So for example, in the same e-commerce application, we have a customer service, product service, payment service, and card service. So instead of putting them into a single application, I am going to develop the customer service separately. I am going to develop the card service separately. I am going to develop the product service separately, and I am going to develop the payment service separately actually. So the huge application is divided into small modules. Okay, small small modules or services, small services or modules, and each other will communicate. So each services will communicate. Each services will communicate with each other using REST API or messaging concept. Okay, using your REST API or messaging concept, we can able to communicate with each other. I can able to communicate. So for that purpose, you will be going for a concept called as your microservice architecture. So what is it? Microservice architecture means the entire application is going to be divided into small services. I am going to divide it. So now, and with the help of your REST API concept, my one services can able to communicate with your services can able to communicate with your other services. Yeah. So as I already told before, your monolithic architecture will always create what type of application?
Tightly coupled.
Yeah, but in the case of your microservices, it will be always creating a loosely coupled application. Okay, loosely coupled application. That is, if one services there is any problem also, there is no need to stop the entire application. We are just going to rectify that particular application alone. We are going to rectify actually. So that is we call to be a microservice architecture. We are going to discuss about the advantage of using your microservice architecture. The first advantage is we call it a small focused actually. Okay, the small focus. And why we say it is small focus now? Based upon the simplicity. Okay, based upon the simplicity. Because we are not going to combine everything into a single application now. We are not going to combine actually. So it leads to a simplicity of your application. So that's the reason we say microservices is a simplicity one actually. And as I already told before, the microservice will always create what type of application? Loosely coupled application. And the third advantage you can able to say is we call it be a bounded context actually. What bounded context now? As I already told before, in the case of your e-commerce application, we have a customer service, payment service, product service, as well as your card service actually. So in the case of your monolithic architecture, we put everything into a single application actually. So what happened? The customer service can able to access the data of the product service, payment service, as well as your
Card service.
Card service.
like that. Other services also will be accessing. But in the case of service architecture, everything I'm going to put it separately. Everything is going to exist separately. Each service is responsible for its own data. So if I talk about customer service will talk only about which data?
Customer data.
So each service is responsible for its own data. Responsible for its own data. Okay, for its own data actually. So one service need not understand the internal implementation of another
Service.
internal implementation of another service. So that is we call it to be a unbounded context actually. So each service is responsible for its own data actually. So one service need not understand the internal implementation of the other services actually. And the next advantage. So as I already told before, one service need not understand the implementation of your other service actually. So what happened now? Each service will be developed by your separate team members and it will be deployed.
Separately.
Okay. So each services will be developed by separate team members and deployed separately. Yeah, and deployed separately actually. So that is also one of an advantage of using your service. So each services will be developed by separate team members and it will be deployed separately. And the next advantage is it's suppose you have mixed technology stack actually. Okay, mixed technology stack, or we can able to say as a language neutral. So what is that one now? As I already told before, each services will be developed by your separate team members and deployed separately actually. So at the time of developing, maybe the customer service I'm developing in Java, my product service I'm developing in .NET, my card service I'm developing with the help of PHP. Like that, each services can able to develop with a different language it can be developed actually. So that's the reason we say microservices. It is going to support mixed technology stack or language neutral. Not necessarily all the services should be developed by Java itself or .NET itself. So one service I can able to develop by one language, another service I can develop by another language. Okay, another services I can able to develop by another language I can able to develop. So that's the reason it is we call it a mixed technology stack or language. And the next advantage is we call it fault isolation. Fault isolation. What is it? Fault isolation now? One service goes down, is it need to stop the entire application?
No.
It does not affect other services. It is not going to affect your other services. If one service goes down now, we are going to rectify only that particular services we are going to rectify. We are not going to bother about the
Other services.
services. So this is the advantage of using your microservice architecture. So and the microservice architecture is nothing but the huge application will be divided into a small components and be divided. So that concept is we call to be that concept is we call to be microservice architecture. And we do have drawbacks also, because if you take anything, there will be some pros and cons will be there actually. So we have some drawbacks also. The first drawback is that communication between services is complex actually. Because consider that mute your call. So communication between the services becomes complex actually. Okay, because if there are so many services are available means, then if I'm going to communicate from one services to another services, again it becomes complex actually. Okay, and the second drawback is that. Consider you have 100 services, you created 100 services, microservices you have created. There is some problem in the 50th services actually. But how I can able to identify there is some problem in your 50th services? So debugging your microservices becomes difficult. Okay, debugging in microservices becomes difficult. Service becomes difficult. Next drawback is that, okay, in the case of your microservices, you will be communicating, you will be creating a separate command, and the services you will be creating and you will be communicating with each other actually. So in the case of your microservices, unit testing is easy. Okay, unit testing easy in microservice. What is unit testing now?
Each module we are
each module we are going to test it actually. Whereas if I'm going to talk about integration testing, okay, integration testing becomes
difficult.
It actually become difficult or complex in the case of your and the microservice architecture, because we'll be having a separate services will be available actually. So integration testing will be difficult actually. And consider if I'm going to have 100 services are there actually. Okay, so we want to maintain all this 100 services we have to maintain it actually. So your upfront cost, okay, cost of maintaining is also will be
high.
So these are some of the drawbacks in the case of your microservice architecture. So now we are going to study about the different type of microservice components. We are going to discuss it actually. So with the help of these components only, we can able to develop your microservice application. We can able to develop actually. The first component we are going to discuss is we call it a service registry, or even we call it a service discovery. service registry, or even we call it a service discovery actually. As I already told before, in the case of your microservices, we are going to divide the application into small
Components.
services, components or services or modules, anything you can able to say. I'm going to divide the entire application into small services. I'm going to divide actually. So now what I'm going to do now, so consider I created 100 services have been created actually. So now I want to communicate from one service, first services to my second service I want to communicate. But how I know there are 100 services in my application actually. So for that purpose, whenever you create any microservices, okay, whenever you create any microservices, we have to register all those microservices actually. So where we are going to register all those microservices now in a component called as
Service registry.
service registry component. So what is the purpose of service registry? Use it to register the list of client microservices. So whatever the microservices you're creating, the client microservices you're creating actually, so those microservices has to be registered somewhere actually. So where we are going to register now inside your
Service registry.
Service registry.
even you can able to say it is going to act like a database, acts like a database with the list of microservices available, with the list of services available in our application. Okay. So whatever the microservices we create, I want to register all those microservices I want to register actually. So where I'll be registering all the microservices now in a concept called as your service registry or service discovery. So there are different type of service registries and the service registries are available. So we have Eureka. Eureka is one of a service registry. We have Consul. We have Zookeeper. Like that, we have different type of service registries are available. But normally we'll be using a service registry called as
Eureka.
And normally this Eureka is created by Netflix actually. The Netflix we have created this Eureka actually. Apart from this Eureka, we have a Consul. We have Zookeeper. Like that, different type of service registries are available. Next thing, how I can able to understand that particular service is going to act like a service registry. Okay. How I can able to understand that particular service is going to act like a service registry. So for that purpose, you have to use an annotation called as your @enable Eureka server. So if I use an annotation called @enable Eureka server in your main class, okay, in your main class, if I'm going to define an annotation called @enable Eureka server now, then it will act like, then that application act like
Service registry.
like service registry. Okay, then the particular application will act like your service registry actually. And by default, all your service registry will run in a port number. Even we can change the port number. Where we can change the port number?
Application.
But by default we can and by default the service registry run in port number 8761. Okay, that will be the default port number of your service registry. Okay, that will be the default port number of your service registry. So right now we are discussing about the microservice architecture we are discussing. And what is that microservice architecture now? Where the huge application is going to be divided into small services, it is going to be divided. So that is we call it by microservices. And we have different components are available in the microservices. The first component we are going to discuss is we call it service registry or service discovery actually. And what is the purpose of this particular component now? And so whenever you create any microservices, client microservices, all those microservices has to be registered somewhere actually. So where you are going to register all your client microservices inside your
Service registry.
and we have different type of service registries are available. We have Eureka, Consul, Zookeeper, like the different type of service registries are available. And normally we'll be using your Eureka, which is developed by your Netflix actually. And how you will indicate that particular microservice is going to act like a service registry with the help of an annotation called
Enable Eureka server.
server, and it is going to run in a port number called as your
8761.
port number. Okay, so we are going to start creating the application actually now. So first we are going to create an application called as your account producer application. Account producer microservice we are going to create it. Okay, account service microservice we are going to create it. And this particular account producer service is going to act like what? Acts like
Service registry.
it is going to act like your service registry actually. Okay, it is going to act like your service registry. So till now everyone clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So everyone open your Eclipse. Share your screen,
Okay, sir.
Everyone open your Eclipse.
Yes, sir.
So we are going to create the first application we are going to create, that is we call it account producer application. And this particular account producer application is going to act like what?
Microservice.
Acts like
Service
what?
registry.
It is a microservice one, because now onwards whatever the application we are creating, it will be acting like what? Microservices. Okay,
Microservices.
always a microservice only we are going to create it actually. So right now we are going to create an account producer microservices which is going to act like a.
Service registry.
Service registry.
So guys, can you say how you will be creating a Spring Boot application?
You want to Spring initializer.
So everyone go to your Spring initializer. Everyone go to your Spring initializer. Everyone go to your Spring initializer. Okay, the project is name and project language is Java, Spring Boot. You can leave like that. In project metadata group, what do you have to give?
Package.
What package will be providing normally?
Com.pack.
Pack actually. So in the artifact, what do you have to give?
Project name.
Project name. Right now, no. Right now we are going to create a project called as your account producer. Account producer. AP caps. Account producer. Account producer. Now this account producer is going to act like what?
Service
It's a microservice which is going to act like a.
Service registry.
Come down. Other things and all you can leave it. So packaging is jar. Okay. Java also you can able to select your 11 version. Okay. Now come to the dependency part. So as I already told before, and this particular application is going to act like a, and Eureka server, it is going to act like that. So for that purpose, you have to and type over there Eureka server. Just type it as Eureka server. So you can able to see a dependency called Eureka server.
Yes, sir.
Select the dependency Eureka server dependency. Select the dependency called Eureka server dependency. So always remember, if I want to create a service registry application now, then compulsory you have to provide what dependency you have to provide it? Eureka server dependency. Okay, you have to provide a dependency called as your Eureka server dependency. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now everyone generate your so now your dependency is done. After that, what do you have to do?
Generate.
Generate. After generating,
Extract.
after extracting,
Import.
import it. After importing,
Clean install.
Ambient clean
Ambient
install.
clean install and then update your project. Do it fast. Generate, extract, import, clean install and update your project. Account producer. So everyone, what is that? Generate your project, extract it, import it, NVN clean install and update your project.
Jar or what?
Jar only.
Okay. Vaibhav?
Yes.
Once extract the project, we should do the npm clean install, right?
Extract it, import it, and then do npm clean install.
Done, sir.
Everyone finished? Everyone imported and build a success up for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Still anyone doing?
Sorry,
Sir,
sir.
Sir, sir. Sir, error, sir.
Error.
Build path error, sir. Can I share my screen, sir? Is it visible, sir?
Till this time, are you doing the Spring Boot project, Mohammed?
Yes, sir.
How you have done without setting the path? Okay, right click your project. Build a path, configure build a path. Libraries. No, libraries tab. Double click. Select the workspace default. Apply and close. Now give npm. Just go 1 minute, go to your pom.xml file. Give Java version. What version you're using?
Sir, 8, sir.
1.8 you're using, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now give npm clean install. Just give env over there. The type to search, just type env. Type here to search was there, no, below. Just type env.
B.
No, not there, not there. Here you can see type here to search. That white color thing.
Yes, sir.
Down, come down.
Press Windows key, Windows key.
Window near to Windows key. There. No, near to that. Here. There, type it. Near to that Windows key, you can type it there. env.
Yes, sir.
What is it, Mohammed? Near to
Yeah,
type. Click your cursor on that in that white color thing. Keep your cursor on that white color thing.
Okay, here.
Nearby the taskbar.
In the taskbar,
Nearby the Windows search box is there, no? In that.
Yes, search.
near that. Keep your cursor. You can see type a new message. Text is there, no?
Okay, Windows.
Shall I give you the control, sir?
Yeah,
No.
I'm just asking for the control. Here. There.
Where, sir? Sir, I've given.
Even
Control.
env. It's coming up.
Yes, sir.
That only.
Type, sir.
Okay, now give edit environmental variable for your account. Click the edit environmental variable for your account. Edit environmental variable for your account. Not that one. Close it. Once again, env.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Edit environmental variable for your account. That one. Close this one. User control. Close it. Select the path. Edit. Hey, without setting the path, how you are executing Mohammed till this time? Go to your folder.
Folder.
In folder location, go to the folder, C colon folder. Go to the C colon folder.
Yes.
Go to the location where your Java is there. Java software. Program.
It is in
Java. PDK. Bin. Go into bin folder. Copy that path.
Sir, it is already there in the system path.
Oh, system path. Yeah. Minimize it.
Yes.
Close it once. Just close it.
This one also cancel.
Cancel.
So.
Select the path in the down. Down.
Down.
You can't edit.
No, sir.
Okay. Click the in the top edit itself. Click it. New.
No, sir.
Paste.
Okay, sir.
Click OK.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Once again. Okay.
Okay.
Now go to your what is it? Eclipse. Windows. In the top, the window menu. Preference.
Sure.
Expand your Java. expand your Java, install JRE, select the installed JRE.
Sir, selected.
Okay. Okay. Click the add button. Click the add button.
Yes, sir. Add
Double click the standard VM. Double click.
this one.
Double click.
Yes, sir.
Click the directory. Click the directory button.
Directory.
Go to C colon program file Java folder JDK folder. Java folder JDK folder. Pin folder. Click select folder. Now click finish. Finish. You just in the scroll right. Come to the scroll bar right hand side. Select the first one. No,
Apply.
wait. Once again, go to that folder. Double click it. Directory. Go to C program file Java JDK.
Sir, I'm here on,
Now select folder. Now select folder.
without going into bin.
Yeah, without going to bin. Now click finish.
Finish, sir.
Finish. Now select the second one. Select the second one.
Yes,
Apply and close.
Done, sir.
Now give npm clean install. Now open a new prompt, Mohammed.
Okay, sir. Sir, now also same, sir.
Compiler is not sure. Go to your preferences, Windows properties. No, this one. What is that? Eclipse Windows.
Sir, game, sir.
Wait. Don't even give it.
Sir, shall I download higher version, sir, like 1?
No need. 8 itself will be working because I also have only JDK 8.
Sir, in path we have given till bin, but we give till source in path in Java home
Which one? Where?
and user variable while setting the path. We have given till bin, but in
Yeah.
path we give till source and then Java home we give bin, right?
No. In path only we have to give bin. In Java home we have to give till JDK folder. Okay. Just go top. Select the Java. Build path. Select the build path. Where is the contents level? Compiler. Select the compiler. In the down compiler. In the compiler compliance level, down click the drop down menu. The first drop down menu. 16 it was there. In the top left 16 it was there. No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Select that. Click that.
1.8.
Give 1.8. Now apply and close. Yes.
Shall I try now?
Wait. 3. Now we'll give nvn clean install.
ये कट करूँ, sir.
Okay. New command. What's the problem?
No compiler environment.
Why that?
Failure executor.
In Spring Initializer, you should have selected 8 version.
You have selected that only. Because if it is not selected, then in pom.xml it won't be coming as 1.8.
Sir, JDK uninstall करके install कर दो, sir.
Wait. Top of the list, edit the path and change the order. Okay, do one thing. Go to your env. Give env environment. Edit your environmental variables. And click new button. Give Java underscore home in capital letter.
What?
Underscore home.
Home.
Home. and go to the
Value.
JDK folder. Last one. Come out from bin folder. Copy the path.
Yes, sir. Copying, sir.
Come
Copy.
to that variable value and paste it. And now click OK. OK. Now give nvn clean install. Open a new command prompt and give nvn clean install.
So through project only, sir.
For project, your project. I think. Yeah, it's downloading.
Sir, done, sir.
Okay. So for others, it's working now. Is it build a success?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now everyone open your form.xml file. Everyone open.
So my clip is hanging, sir.
Restart. Update your project, Mohammed.
Yes, sir.
So everyone open your pom.xml file. In your pom.xml file, you can able to see we have defined one dependency we have provided. What dependency we have provided? Spring Cloud Starter Netflix.
Eureka.
Eureka server. We have provided a dependency called as your Spring Cloud Starter Netflix Eureka server. So this particular dependency indicates this particular service is going to act like what?
Service repository.
Service registry.
Registry. Okay, service registry actually. And not only this dependency is sufficient, we have to provide one more annotation called as what annotation?
At the rate enable your Eureka
Enable Eureka server inside which program?
main class.
Main program.
So everyone go to your main class. So already you can see one annotation called @Spring Boot application annotation. Now we have to provide a next annotation called as your @enable Eureka server. @enable Eureka server. So go to your main class. Expand.
Yeah.
For your slow moment. Open that program account producer application.java. You don't know which one is the main class. So now provide an annotation called as your @enable Eureka server. @enable Eureka server after your Spring Boot application. Enable Eureka server. Select, don't type it, select from that. Enable Eureka server, down is there. Enable Eureka server. So this particular annotation indicates this particular application is going to act like a,
Service
Service
registry.
but that is not sufficient. We have to do one more thing actually. So go to your application.properties file. So first we are going to change the port number. So give the port number server.port is equal to server.port because as you know it's a Spring Boot application. So Spring Boot application by default run with what server?
Tomcat server.
Tomcat server. What port number?
8080.
Okay, so now I'm going to change it. Server.port is equal to 1111. Server.port is equal to 1111. So next we are going to define the next property. We are going to define Eureka.instance.hostname. Eureka.instance.hostname is equal to Eureka. Mohammed, what you're searching? Eureka.instance.hostname is equal to Eureka. Mohammed, what happened? Type it. It's Eureka. It's not Edureka. Okay. Vivo, share your screen. Vivo.
Eureka.
Vivo, share your screen. Okay, anyone? Eureka. EURE. You also E is missing. It's not host name. It is host name. HOST. Eureka.instance.hostname is equal to localhost. So here we are indicating that my Eureka server is running locally. How I'm just indicating that my Eureka server is running locally with the help of a property called Eureka.instance.hostname is equal to localhost. Next property. Eureka.client. Register with Eureka. WE cap. Register with Eureka is equal to false. Okay, so why we are giving, okay, first thing we have changed the port number, we have changed actually, and the next thing we have given that my Eureka is running locally, it is running with the help of your Eureka.instance.hostname is equal to localhost, and the next thing we are going to give Eureka.client.register with Eureka is equal to false actually. So now this account producer application is going to act like what application?
Service
Server.
registry.
Server or service registry actually. So now whatever the client microservices I'm going to create it, so that client microservices and all has to be registered inside which application it has to be registered?
Eureka.
Account producer.
Producer application, which is going to act like a and Eureka server actually. And this particular application itself is a microservice only. Okay, this particular application itself is a microservices, but this application is going to act like a Eureka server. I don't want to make this application itself to register inside my
Eureka.
Eureka server. So for that purpose, we are going to define register with Eureka to be what?
False.
False.
We are just indicating the register with Eureka to be what? False. Register with Eureka to be what? False. Because whenever you create any client microservices means that and all has to be registered on my Eureka server actually. So this is also one of a microservice only, but it is going to act like a
Service register.
service. I don't want to make this application itself to register inside my
Service register.
Service register.
So for that purpose, we are going to give a property called Eureka.client.register with Eureka to be
False.
false. Okay. The next property, Eureka.client.fetch registry. Yeah, R is capital letter. Fetch registry is equal to false. Fetch registry equal to false. Okay. So why I'm giving this particular property now? This application is just going to act like a service registry. And what is the purpose of service registry? It is going to register all my client microservices. It is going to register. So other microservices, it is not going to fetch any information from this particular registry. Okay. It is just going to register all the services actually. Other services, it is not going to fetch any information from this particular and microservice, it is not going to fetch it actually. So for that purpose, we are giving a property called fetch registry also to be what?
False.
Okay. So this application is just a service registry application. So other client need not to fetch any detail from this particular application. So for that purpose, we are giving a property called as a fetch registry to be what?
False.
Yeah. So if I want to create a service registry now, first you have to give a dependency called as a Eureka server dependency you have to provide it, and next you have to provide an annotation called as your other rate enable.
So
Eureka server.
Eureka server annotation we have to provide it, and next we have to provide three properties you have to provide. That first property I want to indicate that my Eureka server is running locally. It is running. So with the help of Eureka.instance.hostname is equal to localhost. And next, this application is not going to register itself on my Eureka server because this application itself is going to act like a Eureka server. So I'm going to give register with Eureka to be false actually. And the next other application is not going to fetch any information from this particular application. It's just going to act like a service registry. So I'm going to give it a fetch registry to be.
false.
So now everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. And in the browser, go and give localhost colon 1111 and check whether your Eureka dashboard is opening. And check whether your Eureka dashboard, as you see in the screen, is opening. So check whether your Eureka dashboard is opening.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, is the Eureka dashboard is opening as you can see in the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is we call it a Eureka dashboard, and in this dashboard only you can able to register all the client services. So now you just come down, you can able to see DS replica. Under DS replica, you can able to see application. Under application, you can able to see no instance
Available.
because as of now we didn't create any
Other registry.
not other registry, other what?
So
Service.
Services. Okay, other client microservices we didn't create it actually. Okay, because we just created a service registry we have created, and this will open my Eureka dashboard. And in this Eureka dashboard only you can able to register all your client
service.
services. Okay, we can able to register all your client microservices. We can able to register. So clear until this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So whenever you are going to create any microservices, first you have to create your service registry. You have to create it, which is going to act like a Eureka server. And whenever you start your application, it will be opening my Eureka dashboard. And in the Eureka dashboard, you can able to list all the, you can register all the
Microservices.
client microservices. Okay, we can able to register all your client microservices. As of now, I didn't create any microservices. You can able to see no instance.
Available.
So right now we are going to create your client microservices. We are going to create it. The first microservice we created is we call the account producer and application, and this account producer application is going to act like a service registry. Next, we are going to create a client microservice. We are going to create it, which is called as your account consumer application. And what my account consumer application is going to do now, it is one of a client microservices, and it is just going to communicate with your.
So
Obviously, it will, if you make it as a Eureka client now, it will be it will register in my Eureka server now. But I want to communicate with my for storing purpose and all. What you will communicate?
Database.
Okay, you will be communicating with your database actually. Yeah. So I'm just sharing my screen actually. So first we created your account producer service. We created which acts like a.
service.
You see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
that thing, first we have to provide a Eureka server dependency. We have to provide it. Okay, first we have to provide your Eureka server dependency. We have to provide it, and next we have to provide an annotation called as your other rate enable.
Eureka server.
A server annotation we have to provide in your main class. We have to provide it, and in application.properties file we have to configure.
Local
properties. We have to configure. So in application.properties file we have to configure. We have to configure.
post
You have
name.
to configure your host name. Then you have to configure your register with Eureka, fetch registry, all the things you have to configure. And whenever you run your application, it will be opening my Eureka.
Client microservices.
No, it will open my Eureka what?
Dashboard.
Dashboard. And in the Eureka dashboard only we can able to register all your
Microservices.
client microservices. Now, second application we are going to create is we call it the account consumer application. Okay, account consumer service actually. So it is a client microservice. It is a client microservices, and what it is going to do now, this particular application is just going to communicate with your.
Database.
There is no UI and all. The purpose of your account consumer application is that it is just going to communicate with.
Database.
Communicate with database. So as I already told before, this account consumer application it is going to just communicate with your database actually. So tomorrow or in the future, if I'm going to create some other application, in that application also, if I want to communicate with your database now, there is no need to create a separate application. Instead, I can be able to use which application?
Account consumer service.
Application. So it is reusable actually. Okay, whatever the and microservices you're creating, it is reusable. It is not necessary I have to use only for this purpose actually. So in the future, if I try to create some other application which has the same property it was containing actually, and I want to and communicate with your databases now, there is no need to create a separate microservices. I can able to just go for which microservice?
Account consumer service.
Microservice. And this application is it is a client microservices and it is going to communicate with what?
Database.
Actually, yeah. Now first I want to indicate it is a client microservice. How you indicate it is a server microservice with the help of a dependency called? No, dependency I'm asking dependency. Eureka server. But right now account consumer is going to act like a client microservice. And how you are going to define it as a client microservice now with the help of a dependency called Eureka? Client. Okay. Next one. If I'm going to give all the request and all will be handled by which program?
Controller program.
If I want to use my controller program, now what dependency we have to provide? I'm asking dependency, I'm not asking annotation.
Web dependency.
Dependency, actually. Now, then, and this particular application is going to communicate with what?
Database.
For database, what are the dependency we have to provide?
Yeah.
And another one is equal to be a MySQL driver. Okay. So for this particular application, we have to create how many dependencies we have to create? 4 dependencies. And if I talk about server application, the server application, in order to indicate it as a server application, we have to provide what annotation? Enable Eureka server. But for the client application, you can able to give any one of the annotation you have to give. One is we call to be enable Eureka client, and another one is we call to be enable discovery client. Enable discovery client actually. Okay, discovery client. So when you have to go for which one now? If I'm going to, if my service registry is only Eureka. Okay, if my service registry is Eureka now, in that case I can able to define the client as what? But in case if my service registry is Eureka, or it can be Console, or it can be Zookeeper, in that case I can able to define the client as what? Enable discovery client annotation. Okay. If my service registry is Eureka now, in that case I can able to define the client as enable Eureka client actually. But if my service registry is Eureka and Console or Zookeeper now, I can able to define the annotation as enable discovery client also. So if I want to define a server now, you have to define only one annotation for enable Eureka server actually. And if it is a client now, you can go for enable Eureka client, or you can go for enable discovery client. So this and all, it's an important interview type of question actually, because the client can be denoted by enable Eureka client or enable discovery client. Then what is the difference actually? So if my service registry is Eureka now, I can go for an annotation called enable
Eureka client.
and in case my service registry is Eureka or Console or Zookeeper now, I can go for an annotation called enable
Discovery client.
Okay, so now everyone, I will share your screen. Everyone go to your Spring Initializer. Everyone go to your Spring Initializer. Okay, so now the same thing, the group let it be com.pack, and in the artifact I'm going to create a project called account consumer. Account consumer. Give it as account consumer. Account consumer. So it is Jar packaging only. The Java version, you can select your version. Okay. Now come to the dependency. So what are the 4 dependencies are needed based for the client for the account consumer microservice?
Web micro.
How do you indicate first? Indicate it as a client.
Eureka client.
Eureka. So type a Eureka client. So select the first one. Enable discovery client. Enable discovery client. Next dependency is web. Next dependency is Spring Data JPA, and next dependency is MySQL driver. So add all the 4 dependency. Eureka discovery client, web, Spring Data JPA, and MySQL driver. So add these 4 dependencies. Eureka discovery client, web, Spring Data JPA as well as MySQL. Have you added all the 4 dependencies, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What do you have to do next thing?
Generate.
Generate, extract, import, nvn clean install, update it. Generate, extract, import, nvn clean install, and update your project.
Sir,
What
build failure. Sir, build failure.
Wait, yeah, because I already told you this application using what dependency it was using.
Spring Data JPA.
Spring Data JPA. If I use my Spring Data JPA, now first what you have to give?
Database.
Registration inside which file?
Application.
Which file? Otherwise, you will be getting what? Build failure. No problem. Even build failure also, just update your project. No problem. Even build failure also, just update your project.
That's all.
Everyone finished up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as I already told before, it is a data JPA application. So where you have to give your DB information? So go to the chat window, copy the code and paste inside your application.properties file. Copy the code and paste inside your application.properties file. Copy the code and paste inside your application.properties file. Copy the code from the chat window and paste inside the application.properties file. So what is the first property we have given DDL-auto y?
To create the table.
Table automatically actually. And next we have given the URL, database URL, JDBC MySQL localhost 3306/JPA. What is the JPA represents? Database name. We have already created, no problem. The username is root and password is root. And for few guys, you have created a different password to change the password of your MySQL. To change the password of your MySQL. And what is the last property? Direct property means?
So it will generate the automatically query.
Query based on a
Particular database.
particular database. Generate the query based on a particular database. Perfect. Okay. So now we have given all your DB information in my application.properties file. We have given. Now you npm clean install and check whether it is built to success. Now you give npm clean install and check whether it is a build to success. Give npm clean install and check whether it is a build to success.
Yes, sir.
Sir, fail, sir. Build failure, sir.
Failure. Okay, maybe for the test it maybe failed.
Build success, sir.
No, build success it should. It will show error, but also it will show build success. Okay, no problem. Build failure, no problem. Leave it. Okay. So now everyone go to your form.xml file. Once you update it, then no problem. So go to your form.xml. Let me check also. Who is getting build failure?
Yes, sir.
Share your screen once. Why you couldn't failure? Or test failure? No problem. Test failure, no problem. If it is a test failure, no problem. If it says there are test failure means there is no problem. Hey Harish, your password is correct, Harish?
Sir, I didn't install this one, sir. SQL. So yesterday I have requested for the with
Wonderful, wonderful guys, wonderful. By next week we are completing the training itself. We are completing till now. You didn't install your SQL part. By Friday, your training is completed by next Friday. Now you're saying you didn't install your SQL. Harish, I'm asking you only, Harish.
Sir, I have requested, sir. Today they will. I will contact them.
Harish,
And I will
Harish,
make
I'm asking next week your training is going to be completed. Now only you're requested for your SQL software.
workbench I have, sir.
You're working with your workbench, no?
Yes, sir.
Is it workbench is working or not?
Yes, sir. Workbench is working.
Then I'm asking that only. And what is the password of your workbenches?
Root only, sir.
Then that's okay. That only I'm asking actually. If workbench is working means no problem.
Okay.
I don't want anyone, either workbench or the command prompt should be working. That's it. What build failure? Show your screen.
Test.
Test. That's no problem. Any other person? If you're getting there are test failure, no problem.
Sir, SQL workbench itself is fine, sir.
Yeah, workbench itself is fine. No problem. Either you can go for workbench or you can go for command line. Anything you can go for. So if it is a test failure, don't worry, no problem, because right now we are not doing anything with the testing part. Okay. Okay. So now everyone open your form.xml file. Everyone open your form.xml file. Everyone open your form.xml file. Harish, open it. What you're doing? Okay. So what are the dependencies we have added in this form.xml? First, we have added a dependency called go top. Top. So we have given a dependency, bring data JPA, come down dependency I'm asking. Bring data JPA, Spring Web, and the MySQL driver. And what is one more dependency we have added?
Spring Cloud.
Spring Cloud starter, Netflix Eureka client. Okay, Eureka client actually. Okay. So because this application is going to act like a, this application is going to act like what? Client what? Client? Microservice. Okay, it's a client microservice. Okay. And how you indicate it is a client program with the help of what annotation?
Enable.
Eureka client. Or even I can go for discovery client, but here we'll go for Eureka client itself. So go to your main class. Go to your main class and give an annotation called @enable Eureka client. Go to your main class. Go to your main class and give an annotation called @enable Eureka client. @enable Eureka client. So now this application is going to act like a client. Eureka client it is going to act. But how this application knows and there is one Eureka server is running locally actually. So for that purpose, everyone go to your application.properties file. Everyone go to your application.properties file. Already in application.properties file we have given DB information we have given actually. Now just come down. After the direct property, give one space. After direct property, give one space. After direct property, might be leave your line number 6 and type in line number 7. Leave your line number 6 and type in line number 7. So this application is also going to run with what server? No. I'm asking this application is going to run by what server?
Tomcat server.
And it is going to run in what port number? So this application is going to run in what port number? 880 port number. Now I want to change the port number. So with the help of what property? Server.port is equal to 2222. Server.port is equal to 2222. Server.port is equal to 2222. Okay, now this is a client microservice. I'm going to register this client microservices in my Eureka dashboard. I'm going to register. How I'm going to register now? With the help of a specific name actually. So what is the name of your project is?
Account
Account
consumer.
consumer.
It's not going to register with the name of a project. It won't be registering actually. So we have to give a name for this particular application, and that name only is going to be registered in my Eureka
Client.
Service registry.
service registry. Now what it will open? Eureka what?
Dashboard.
Dashboard. Okay. So it is not going to register with the name of your server, name of your project. It won't be registered actually. So we have to provide some name. We have to provide. So in that name only, it is going to register in my Eureka
Dashboard.
dashboard. So now I'm going to give the name for the application. Spring.application.name is equal to spring.application.name is equal to spring.application.name is equal to. You can give any name. I'm going to give it as accounts-consumer. Accounts-consumer. Small letter. Everything small letter. Accounts-consumer. Accounts-consumer. Okay. Next property. So I have given a name for this particular application. I have given a name, and this name only is going to be registered in my
Client consumer.
But how my client knows that my Eureka server is running in 1111 port number? So for that purpose, the next property we are going to give it is we call it to be your Eureka.client. Service URL ucaps. Service URL ucaps. Correct. Service URL ucaps. Service URL dot default zone zcaps. Default zone zcaps. Default zone is equal to http:// localhost colon 1111 /Eureka/. That's it. Because I already see the screen and type it properly. So as I already told before, this application is going to act like a client microservice actually, and this particular application is going to be registered on my Eureka dashboard actually. How it is going to be registered? So for that purpose, only we have provided an application name. We have provided what is your name of your application is?
Account consumer.
Consumer actually. And next thing, how my client knows that my Eureka server is running in a port number called 1111. So how it knows? With the help of a property called Eureka.client.service URL.default zone is equal to. I'm just providing the information about my Eureka. So I'm providing the information about my Eureka server, which is running in a port number called as your 1111 number. Okay, which is running in a port number called as your 1111 port number. Here are guys still this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the purpose of this particular application?
To interact with the database.
To communicate with your database actually. In order to communicate with your database. First, we have given all the database information in your application.properties file. After giving all the database information in the application.properties file, what program you have to create it in order to communicate with your database?
Control.
I want to communicate with your database. I want to communicate with. So what program you have to create it?
Interface. Repository.
That is afterwards. That is your third step actually. But the second step, what program you have to create it?
Entity program.
Entity class. You have to create your entity class. You have to create it actually. And this entity class value is going to store inside what?
Database.
It's going to store inside your database. Right click your com.pack.account_consumer and create a new class. Right click your com.pack.account_consumer, create a new class with a package called .entity. And your class name is account. Class name is account. So right click your com.pack.account_consumer and create a new class with a package .entity and your class name is account. So how you will indicate it as entity class? Other entity. And each entity class should be mapped with the table name. And is it necessary to provide your table annotation?
No, sir.
No. If I'm not giving a table annotation, in what name the table will be created?
Entity class name.
Entity class name itself. Okay, there is no need to give your table annotation. If I'm not giving now, then by default it is going to create the table in the name of your entity class. So here I'm not going to give other table. So what name the table will be created? Now define the property. Private integer ID. Private double amount. Double. It's double. It's not data type. What do you have to give? Private double amount. Next is private string type and private string name. Okay. So now, as I already told before, we created 4 property: ID, amount, type, and name actually. And each entity class compulsory should contain a
Primary key.
primary key actually. And how you denote a primary key with the help of an ID call? So
ID.
ID. So define an annotation called @ID. Hello. Where you have to define your @ID?
So the package is not importing, sir.
Not importing.
Other entity ID, sir.
I think you didn't update your project.
It's updated, sir.
Check dependency.
1 minute. Harish, give your @ID. Share your screen, Hitachi. Import it, Harish. So others, now we have done everything. So what we have to create after this? Everyone create your getters and setters method, parameterizer constructor, default constructor.
Done, sir.
Hey, 1 minute, Hitachi, wait. Import it. Just give Control-Shift-O. Afterwards, you create this. Give Control-Shift-O.
It's not working, sir.
Keep your cursor pointer on that entity.
Sir, we should generate two things also, sir.
What is it, ma? No need. Only getter and setter method, parameterizer constructor, and default constructor. Go to your com.xml file. What's your
So
name?
actually in the imported, sir, Spring
No.
Initializer.
What is that, Hitachni? Where you have to create this program, Hitachni? Which project you are creating? Which project you have to create, Hitachni? Account?
Consumer.
Why you are creating an account producer, Hitachni? Wait, right click this com.pack account producer entity. No, down, next one, down.
Yes, sir.
No, com.pack.account producer.entity.
Yes, sir.
I delete it. Now open your application.properties once. In account producer, open your application.properties. See, again, you have given everything in your account producer application. Like I was saying in account consumer application, why you have given everything in account producer application?
So I thought it is that one, sir. Consumer.
Cut from 5 to 13. Cut from 5 to 13. Cut it. Now close, save it and close all this tabs. Close all the programs. Now open your consumer application. Open your main class. And open your producer application once. Remove this Eureka client. What is this, Hitachni? You are listening the session or not?
Yes, sir. Actually listening, sir, but I thought this
Already you have given server. Then how you can give client over there? Remove the client part alone. Save it. Now in your account consumer, let I'll give it. Oh, now all your DB information will be going. Guys, just someone copy the application properties and paste in the chat window. Copy the application properties of account consumer and paste in the chat window. Close this one, Hitachni. Close this one. Save it. Account producer also save it. Now open your application properties of account consumer. Now go to the chat window, copy the code and paste it. Hey, no, fully top also. Hitachni, top also, Hitachni.
Yes.
From spring.jp. Password is root,
Yes, sir.
Ask Walter writing for you. Now right click your com.pack.account consumer and create a new class. Packages dot entity and class name as account. Give @ entity. Import it. Now give private integer ID, private double amount, private integer ID, private double amount. No, go to the next line and first type it. Private integer ID, private double amount, private string type, private string name, private string type and private string name. Import your ID, create your getters and setters method, parameterize constructor and default constructor. Nishda?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So everyone created your entity class?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay. Format it, Hitachni. Okay. Next one. After creating the entity class, now this entity class only has to be stored inside the database actually. And in order to make our work easier, what concept is available?
Bootstrap.
Repository interfaces.
Repository interfaces. Okay. So we are provided with your repository interfaces are available. And what are the two repository interfaces normally we use? Either
API
or
API.
repository. And whenever you use anything inside the angle bracket, what you have to give?
Entity
Entity type.
Data type or primary key. So now everyone right click your com.pack.account consumer, create new interface. Right click your com.pack.account consumer, create new interface and packages dot repository and your name is account repository. Package with the dot repository and name is account repository. Account repository. Okay, so this interface has to extend what interface? Extends create repository, and an angle bracket what you have to provide?
entity
Entity
Account,
data type of private.
account comma integer and import it. Account comma integer and import it. Now what's your name now? Hitachni, right click your project and give refresh once. Right click your project and give refresh once. Okay, so now your entity class is ready, your repository is ready. Now I want to give a request. Based upon the request, it has to do all the processing. So in which program will you be giving the request?
Controller.
So everyone right click your package and create a new class with packages.controller and name as account controller. With the dot controller and name as account controller. Name as account controller.
Sir, can you open account repository once again?
Just open account repository.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, how you indicate it as a controller, guys?
At the rate controller, rest controller.
But here, what do you use? At the rate? Rest controller. Because here we are not getting the giving the response base because you're not giving. So it's at the rate rest controller. Okay. So here, what are the operation I'm going to do now? I'm going to insert into the database. For inserting, what method we are going to use it?
Same.
Same method.
Same method. And next, I'm going to fetch all the information I want to fetch all the account from the database. I want to fetch it actually. So what method if you will using in order to fetch all the account from the database?
Find all method.
If I want to find a single account now,
Find
find by ID, or even you can go for which method? Find
one.
one. So that is one we are going to use it over here. So now what I'll do? Okay. So these method and all will be provided by what interface it will be providing? Account repository. Okay. So how you'll be and give the reference of account repository into my controller program?
Auto
Inside the program, just type @AutoWire account repository repo. Account repository @AutoWire account repository. R caps. Second one R caps. Account repository. Import it. So copy paste from the chat window and paste it.
Inside the classroom.
Yeah, correct. Paste it, Hitashni, correct.
Yes, sir. It's not pasted.
I think we didn't copy it. Copy it properly.
Not pasted here.
Click. Format. Okay, so what we are imported? For find one, it will be showing the error. Change to find by ID. Instead of find one, give it as find by ID. And might be after find by ID because what will be the return type of find by ID?
Optional.
So after find by ID of ID dot, you have to call which method?
Get method.
So give dot get method. After parenthesis. No. Find by ID bracket ID after parenthesis called get method. Dot get. That's it. Okay. So listen. So if I try to give a request called a slash accounts now. Okay. If I try to give a request called a slash accounts now, what method it will be invoking?
All method.
And inside the all method, what method we are calling from the account repository?
Find all.
Find all method. And what my find all method is going to return? It is going to return all the list of
Accounts.
Next one. If I'm going to give a request called a slash account slash ID, so I'm going to get the ID from the URL with the help of what annotation?
Path variable.
Path variable annotation. And based upon the ID, if I'm going to return a single account now, we have to go for which method?
Find by ID.
Find by ID. And the return type of the find by ID will be optional. And in order to get the value from the optional, we are calling a method called as
Get
method. And it is going to return a single account. It will be returning actually. Next one. If I'm going to give a request called a slash accounts, and in what request we are giving? What method?
Post.
If I'm going to give the post method now, we are going to store the information into the database with the help of what method?
Same method.
Same method. And what we are going to store it?
Account.
Account object actually. Might be in the last session that we have studied, we are giving all the student information in the form that we are giving actually. How to retrieve the student information from the form to the controller, what annotation we have to use. But here we don't have any form actually. So we are going to give some information and how to return that information with the help of an annotation called request body. So it is going to return the body of your account object, and that account object I'm going to store inside which one? Database. Yeah. So the purpose of your account consumer application is just going to communicate with your database. Nothing we are doing. Okay. So from maybe in the tomorrow session, we'll be creating one more microservice. We'll be creating, and from that microservices we are going to give the input, and that will come to which microservice it will be coming?
Account consumer.
Account consumer microservice it will be coming, and from that it will be stored the information into the database. Yeah. So maybe in the tomorrow session we'll be creating one more microservice. We'll be creating, but in that microservices we are not writing any coding related to your
Database.
Database. Yeah. We are just, if I want, so in that microservices, I'm going to give input, and if I want to store the input into the database now, from that microservice, I'll communicate with which microservice?
Account controller.
Account
Account consumer.
Because this account consumer microservice is completely responsible for communicating with the
Database.
Okay, communicating with the database. Now everyone start your application, start your consumer application, and already your producer application is started. Your Eureka server is started. Now run your account consumer application. Run your account consumer application. After running, go to the browser and refresh your localhost colon 1111. After running your application, just go to your browser and refresh your Eureka dashboard. After running your consumer application, just go to your Eureka dashboard and refresh it. After launching your account consumer application, just go to your Eureka dashboard and refresh it. There's no problem, no problem. You can just go to your Eureka dashboard and refresh it. Yeah, I think you have stopped your producer, I think, Ditashmi. Terminate your application. Yeah, terminate your application. See guys, make sure your producer also should be running. Your producer also should be running, then only you have to start your consumer application. So check whether your producer is also running. First start your producer, then only start your consumer application. First start your producer application and then start your consumer application. It is launching, wait. First start your producer application and then start your consumer application. Now start your consumer application. Now start your consumer application. Now refresh your browser. So once you refresh your browser, in the application you can able to see what you can able to see.
Accounts consumer.
Accounts hyphen consumer. And what is that accounts hyphen consumer? Where we have provided this accounts hyphen consumer, it is nothing but your
Application.
as I already told before, your account consumer is one of a client microservices. So it is not going to register with the name of your project. It has to always register with the application name in capital letter only. It will be registering actually. So you can able to see your client microservice called account consumer has been registered in my Eureka dashboard and it is up. So the up indicates the client service is
Running.
Okay, the client service is running. And which port number it is running? 222 running. Okay. So like that, whenever you create any and the client microservices, all the client microservices will be registered in my
Account producer. In this case.
account producer. And your account producer will be acting like what?
Service
Service
registry.
registry.
Okay, it will be acting like your service registry. So the first we created your account producer application, which is going to act like your service registry. It was acting like that, and which is running in a port number called as 1111 port number. Next we created another application called as your account consumer application, and that account consumer application, it is a client microservices and just going to communicate with
Database.
Yeah, it is just going to communicate with your databases, and that particular application is also has been registered in my Eureka.
Dashboard. Dashboard.
Yeah, it has been registered in my Eureka dashboard. Yeah, guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll just refresh this microservices concept. So in the tomorrow session, we'll be discussing with the one more client microservices we'll be creating, and from that microservices, we are going to communicate with which microservice?
Account
Account consumer.
Account consumer microservice, for the communication purpose. We'll discuss in that in the tomorrow session. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Please refresh these topics. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And in case if you are not completed your we have